Wait. Oh, yeah.
There we go. We're good. Probably. Oh well. It's alright. Hello, Taylor.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Good.
Wonderful. I'm glad to see you again.
You too.
Alright. So just jumping straight into it. What's been going well since the last time we talked?
A couple of things have actually gone really well. I got to meet up and have coffee with a social worker.
Okay.
So I know we talked about that. Yeah, so that I think just in general was kind of a high point of my week since I've seen you. And then I also kind of got to meet with someone who does more counseling. So I think that both of those things have just been really positive things over the past week or so.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was one of the steps that we had kind of mapped out for you towards finding out what direction you wanted to go.
Yeah.
So what types of stuff did you find out from them?
So the meeting with the social worker was really helpful because I think I told you I just don't have a ton of knowledge in social work at all. I don't know a ton of people who are in that profession, and I think my initial view of it was very much just like DCS. I just didn't really know what you could do with a career in social work. So I found out, I think, just different types of jobs you can have as a social worker, that you can actually counsel too as a social worker or do therapy. I think I told you talking to someone would be helpful to kind of know the good and the bad of the profession. So it was helpful to hear the really rewarding parts of her job, but also she was pretty honest about the things that were really hard about it. So yeah, I feel like overall I just learned more about what you can do in the career, but also the challenges it can present, specifically personally and just emotionally.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the lighter side of that, what were some of the positives that were kind of attracting you more and more to it as you listened to them?
I think just at the fundamental, the core of social work, it sounds like it's just this huge social justice piece, advocating for change. And that's something that just hearing that really excites me, because the stuff I read or just the movies I like I think I told you, I naturally just tend to gravitate towards that type of thing. So the idea that that's at the core of it just really excites me. I think hearing that in social work I could also one day do therapy or counseling, which is this other part of a career that I'm kind of interested in. That was really exciting and kind of relieving to hear that I would have so many options, I guess.
Right.
So that was comforting to know.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So on the not so light side, what were some of the negatives that they talked about also?
Well, I just expressed concerns, just kind of knowing very little about social work, that you're dealing with some hard things. You're almost walking towards people's problems. So I think I expressed some concern just about being a pretty empathetic person, and how do you not take on other people's pain but still care. So I think just hearing that, that's just not, there's no formula for that, that might be something I have to struggle through and work through on my own, and that there might be days that it's really hard to separate that. And that I think another just downside to that was just hearing, some of the clients that they've really invested in where it's they didn't make a difference, and just kind of learning that reality of that job. You're stepping into people's problems, but you don't always get to see them arrive at a solution or something better.
Right.
So while that was hard to hear, I also get it. So yeah, both of those things were new pieces of information that to me were just kind of okay, this is helpful to know, but it's going to be hard if I move towards that career.
Right. So it sounds like you have kind of that awareness of, you'll have some effect, but not the ultimate end all be all. You can't really save anyone.
Yeah.
It's got to come from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's what I feel like I learned. Yeah.
Yeah. And how does that, at risk of sounding cliche, how does that make you feel?
Yeah. I think it's part of it is encouraging or kind of freeing because it's like it's not all on you to like save the day.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that to me is kind of freeing, but part of hearing that kind of scared me too because like I said, I'm a pretty empathetic person and I take on other people's pain. So the idea that I'm going to have to work through that and kind of maybe stumble through it and it's not always going to be easy to separate myself. I think that kind of makes me a little anxious about going into social work because it's like, will I be able to do that? And will I be able to be an effective social worker if I'm always like an emotional wreck? So that's, I guess, so there's some relief in that, but there's also some anxiety. And should I go into that then if I'm really empathetic?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So let's say, you've made your decision, you're going for it, you're getting into the social work profession, you've got a job. How would you kind of prepare yourself, or what steps would you take to assure that you're not being just driven down into the dirt by all this stress? I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think continuing to, talk to social workers is really helpful, just like people who are in it, who understand. I think that there's a lot of, I guess, just like relief that can come through talking through things with people who get it, who understand, and also I think just like picking their brains of what works for you. How do you establish boundaries? How do you step away? And like I've already heard in like my coffee meeting with the social worker, like the idea of self-care. So what does that look like to identify like what for me is really restful? But yeah, I really think that my biggest source of support would be other social workers or, my natural supports, just talking through those things and being open when I'm struggling.
For sure.
Instead of trying to just kind of like wrestle through it myself. So.
Okay. So with, I know we've briefly talked about it before in other sessions, with your job at the magazine, how are you able to deal with the stress how are you able to deal with the stress that came from that?
I think currently at the magazine, just so far, I kind of have done what I just said. I've just tried to talk to people that are like my natural supports, and tried to, just not keep my emotions like bottled up inside and stress. But I think the missing piece, honestly, has probably been talking to my colleagues about it. I think I mentioned that, like, there's just, like, I haven't gone to my colleagues a lot to express how overwhelmed or frustrated that I feel. So it's been more just, like, people that are on the outside who aren't really in it kind of giving advice or just listening, honestly. So that's how I've handled it, so far. It's just, talking to people and then trying to do things that I enjoy when I'm not at work that kind of take my mind off of it, or restful or restorative to me. Okay. So yeah, that's how I've handled it.
So finding a job where you'll have the support of the coworkers, because it sounds like you get more from the people who kind of have that same experience.
Yeah, I would say so. I think there's just this, like, I don't know, camaraderie when you're in something together and you can kind of understand it and learn from somebody who's actually in the exact same situation, like how they're coping with it, how they're adapting to it, and how they're successful at handling the stress, or maybe even, things that they've done to, like, speak up about what they're feeling. Yeah, I think to me I really value that that camaraderie against or amongst coworkers, where you can not necessarily gossip, but just talk about frustrations and what have you done to overcome certain things or to alleviate that stress.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's important, being able to utilize those supports.
Right.
And would you say that you're able to utilize those supports somewhat effectively now in your current situation?
Yeah. I like I mentioned, I don't think necessarily within like my, if you're talking about are you talking about the magazine?
Right.
Yeah. I don't think I have, like, I guess you would call them internal supports, like those coworkers that offer that support, but I do have a really good outside support system that I can talk to that'll hopefully still be there if I do change careers too. But yeah, I think that's something I really value, and that's kind of a missing piece right now. Another reason why my current job's just really hard.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so you've taken the steps to kind of learn more about the social work field and all that it can provide, both good and bad.
Right.
What else have you done? Have you gone further? What else have you gone?
Yeah, so I know we talked about just like what would it look like to just look more into social work and education and what's needed to be a social worker. So I've done a little bit of just research on, do I need to go back to school? Do I need to have a degree to be a social worker? And so there's just been a lot of like talking in those meetings to, my friend that was a social worker. She went to grad school for social work. So just hearing from her that degree is really helpful. And just learning that getting your master's is really helpful for social work, because that's really what enables you to be able to do a lot and do counseling one day. So yeah, I've just been researching programs online and just have found a couple here in Indiana.
Okay.
So I think I'm probably in the pretty early phases of that, and just knowing like what even exists as far as social work education programs in the area.
Okay. Well, that's good that you're kind of looking into, that there's a couple in the area. So that's a good next step.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've kind of weighed the pros and cons of the social work area.
Yeah.
And how would you say that you're able to kind of balance that?
So I think what I have so far realized is that right now at least, it seems like the pros are coming out, like they seem so much, it's totally worth it, because the cons I see are things that I think I can learn, and I don't think there's any perfect job or a job that isn't going to present its challenges. And to me, I so deeply care about social justice and oppressed people groups and these things I already naturally kind of get excited about, and like all of the dream jobs I can think about seem to kind of align with like that type of helping profession. That to me, it's like when you're running towards people's problems, like I said earlier, it's kind of just like expected that you're going to encounter some struggle in that. And to me, it's like, it's so worth it to me to like help people, even though there's going to be some struggle in it. And I think, if I can find those supports, like within, if I do go to school, the program, and eventually at my job, that I can learn how to adapt and learn how to manage those stressors. And I guess so. Yeah, to me, it's coming out in favor of going for it, even though there's some things that are going to be challenging.
Okay.
So,
all right. So, obviously, like you said, every job has negatives.
Yeah.
There's not like the perfect job
Right.
that is all positive.
Yeah.
If there is, I haven't found it. But how would you say the negatives of, or the challenges, as you said, the challenges of social work, that area, how would you say those compare
Mm-hmm.
with the negatives, the challenges of your job at the magazine?
That's a really good question. I think the negatives at the magazine are like an internal, like it's like something that I can't adapt to or change, I guess would be a way to put that.
Okay.
Like I naturally, like I just don't even value the type of work I'm doing, or I'm just not even passionate about the type of work I'm doing in the magazine. I think I told you like the stories I'm writing about, just kind of like frivolous things when I really care about, like I said, like social justice and all of these things. So it's like for me, it's more of like an internal struggle every day of like I'm not doing what I feel like I was meant to do or what I'm naturally passionate about.
Right.
Those are the negatives, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas looking at social work, it's like I'm doing something that I think I'm really passionate about and something that I'm more just naturally gifted at. And the negatives, like struggling with how to be an empathetic person and set up boundaries, those are things that I think I can change and work on and adapt to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess it just seems worth it to me to do work that I'm passionate about versus to continue doing a job that I feel like is just so unnatural for me to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you feel like you can kind of, what's the word? I'm not thinking of the word. I guess come to terms better with those challenges because you have such the positive that is the passion, whereas it wasn't there for the magazine.
Yeah, I think that's why social work just seems like it might be worth it, even though there will be challenges.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. So you've already taken the steps of finding stuff out about the social work area, social work field. What do you see as the next step, aside from something you've already kind of done, is look into schools? Yeah, what do you think? What other options are there?
So like I said, I think I'm in the very early stages of literally just knowing what schools offer programs. Like that's really all I've found out. So I think for me, it might just be exploring a little bit more of what those different programs offer, like how respected they are, how they differ. I guess, just looking at the structure of them and how much like practice you actually get with actual clients.
Right.
So I think it might look like going through and kind of comparing these programs, and I need to go more in depth. Like I really just know that these schools have them, but what does it look like, to actually be a student in these programs, and what are the hours, what's the workload, and I guess obviously application process. That would probably be like a first thing to kind of figure out. Would be to look into that. Yeah.
I mean, once you decided where.
Yeah. So I think initially it might just look like researching these programs a little bit more.
Okay.
And kind of seeing which one's the better fit, and then kind of looking into applying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you see, ideally, how do you see that fitting into your current life? Like how everything is shaken out now?
So I think that right now at the magazine, I think I mentioned this before, it's like I'm pretty over reading things after I get home from work. But so I do think that the weekends, unfortunately, like even though I kind of don't want to use that time during the week to look into it. I think it might need to be like one night a week looking into things and having like a night on the weekend or a certain time during the weekend that I look into it. I just feel like at work it's just I don't really have time to look into those things, and it's just more of a distraction, honestly, and not meeting my deadlines and like a vicious cycle. So I think for me it'll be like having an evening or two during the week as much as it's hard for me to like have energy to put into things, and then maybe like on the weekends, like doing some really heavy duty research and trying to look into these programs and maybe even try to see if anyone that I know has done these specific programs. Because I think I mentioned just like talking to people for me really helps versus just like reading about it on the website.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So does that concern you, like having to kind of restructure your schedule with this added, these added next steps, trying to find out where you want to go, what you want to do?
Right. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty motivated just because I had such a good meeting. I had such a good meeting with my friend who's a social worker that I'm feeling pretty motivated right now, just because my job, just is just not in a good place, and I've waited around kind of long enough. I feel like at this point it's not getting better.
Right.
So yeah, and just her kind of helping me through it, helping me identify a couple schools, and I think that I feel motivated right now to continue to pursue it and to look into it. Even though I know I'm busy, it's like I'm really ready to start taking actual steps instead of just continuing to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So it sounds like you have a very optimistic outlook on this. Okay, that's good. That's good. So I can tell that that passion is already is really kind of breaking through the shell and coming out. Okay, that's great. So with restructuring your schedule to find out more information as far as school goes, how does let's see. Okay. I mean, I guess really just obviously you don't have to stick with this, but right now at this point, what do you feel like you would be best at as far as in the social work field? You've mentioned that you found out there's different types of social work. There's the counseling. There's more of this and that. What do you think?
I think I mentioned like there's some counseling interest there, and I think I said one of the pros of talking to my friend was seeing that you can do therapy or counseling eventually. So I think that is something down the road maybe I see myself doing, and obviously I need to look into like how many hours you have to have before you can do therapy and all of these things, but working in some type of counseling capacity, and then I know that I naturally just enjoy kids, but I also, from talking to her, it's like you can kind of bounce around a lot in social work and do a lot of different things, and you can be surprised by the things that you enjoy. So yeah, I think I see myself doing some type of like counseling or some type of working for some agency that works with kids, whether that's an agency or a school.
Okay.
But I'm also really trying to keep an open mind because I don't have any experience at all. So yeah, I'm excited to see where I fit.
So, kind of tell me more about what it is about the children area that draws you to that.
Well, I have a little sister that I grew up with kind of being like a second mom to.
Okay.
And I think just kind of walking with her through life and seeing the different challenges that present kids at different developmental like phases and being able to work with her through those has really helped. At my church, I volunteer with kids and just really enjoy like seeing light bulbs go off and then like learning new things, and there's just like a hunger there to learn and to change and to grow that I think is is sometimes hard to find in adults, I guess. So I think that excites me. And I think honestly too, it's just to me, it's like as a kid, you're so vulnerable. Like yeah. And I think I see that in my own life, just how like who you're raised by and the environment you grow up in just so affects you as a kid and who you grow up to be. So to be able to be somebody that steps into a kid's life and is like a positive, a positive person in their life that empowers them to empowers them to make decisions for themselves and to look at certain situations or hard things they're experiencing in a different way. Like to me, that's really exciting because I can think of like almost no more vulnerable state or vulnerable population than kids who are just so subject to the people that they're around and the environment they're in. They don't really get a say in it.
Yeah.
So to me, I think that excites me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So in your experiences that you're just talking about, how does it make you feel when you notice that you're able to have an impact?
I think there's just like a real sense of just feeling it's rewarding. I think there's just also a real sense of, and this might sound weird, but just like peace. Like I'm kind of just doing what naturally I feel like I am kind of wired to do when I'm interacting with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's an element of getting to be like silly and fun and creative, but also like kids can have really in-depth conversations too. So I think there is just a real sense of like peace when I'm working with kids. It just feels natural. But also just like a ton of joy because they're just able to see things in different ways and just able to kind of see things through a completely different lens. So I think there's so rewarding, and then there's just a lot of peace, but then also like just a lot of joy that I experience. It's not like I'm like working it up in myself. It's just like a natural byproduct of I feel like after these interactions with kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that feeling of joy, that rewarding feeling, is really connecting you to the children demographic of counseling.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's spurring the motivation towards there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. Because that's important, being able to find out what that motivation is and and what's causing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
It's because I remember you mentioning in our previous sessions, you were able to find that motivation and what was driving it behind doing, the newspaper in college, doing a magazine at Indiana Monthly.
Yes.
But that it's kind of got lost in there. So that's good to hear that you're finding that you're discovering a new motivation for something.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Is that? I mean, you said it's exciting. Is how does that feel that you're able to kind of figure all this out?
I think even just right now, it's really exciting to hear like just I guess think through like why do I even enjoy kids and working with them, and why do I feel that way when I work with them? So that's just helpful to even like identify in myself like why those have been such positive experiences and why I feel drawn to them. But it's really exciting because I think it's like it's a passion that's always been there. So to finally start connecting the dots and just seeing how I can like do my passion professionally is really exciting, because I think like I talked about before, like the stories I wrote about more social justice issues were like my favorite stories. So it's like it's kind of always been there.
Yeah.
And it's like when I enjoy journalism the most. So it's like it's just cool to kind of start seeing the puzzle like come together. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Awesome. That does say 29. Alright. Pause back in. Alright. So as we're kind of wrapping up, I think we've come a long way in the past few sessions, and we we have a good plan on where to go from here.
Yeah.
It's when you think back to our first session where you were at, how does that kind of compare to with where you're at now? How does it feel differently?
Yeah. I think when I first came in, I was feeling a little discouraged and just like not super hopeful, just feeling kind of stuck, honestly, at my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think through this time, it's just been helpful to see that I've kind of exhausted my options there, and just to kind of uncover like what I'm naturally passionate about, and to kind of discover that like Wheeler was something I enjoyed so much more than my job, and it was really helpful to look into that and to see if I could do something more like that full time. So yeah, it feels really good to kind of, like I said, to start seeing these things that have always been there, and to start actually putting action to them, because I've thought about it for a long time, because I've been unhappy at my job for a while. So it feels really good to feel not stuck, like to feel like I'm moving towards something.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Feels
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
So your next step is to do some more research on your school.
Yeah.
And then figure out the rest from there.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Right. Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Same.
Yeah.